What's up, Wayfinders, and welcome into Disney My Way, episode number 156. My name is Lightning Lane, Ka-chow, and on today's episode, we have part one of our two-part conversation about everything that was talked about at D23 this year. I got my special guest, Jack, joining me for this one, and we had so much fun talking about D23, but when we got done, we realized it was over 2 hours long, and I didn't want to bombard you with all of that. So we're splitting up our talk into two different parts. And so I hope you guys enjoy. If you don't hear something that you think should have been talked about on this part, make sure to catch part two, which will come out soon after this. But without further ado, we're going to go ahead and dive into our episode today with my good buddy, Jack. All right, hey guys, I am here with my buddy Jack. All right, Jack, first time on the podcast.
Dude, I'm thrilled. I'm stoked. I've been listening to this off and on ever since you got to Tuscaloosa, and I'm like, man, I gotta find a way on this guy's show at some point.
Right, man.
I'm thrilled.
Hey, but we're glad you're on, and I do need to make reference that we have on the podcast before talked about Mike and Myra's friend Jack, poor Jack, as we referred to him as. This is not poor Jack.
No. Like I thought about this. Like I wasn't sure how the whole naming thing worked. Like I knew you were Lightning Man, which made a ton of sense.
Ka-chow.
Yeah, it made a ton of sense. But I was like, I mean, I guess like, you know, Pirates of the Caribbean Captain Jack works. Like CAP apostrophe N. Like none of that TAI stuff.
Why
like,
is the rum going?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So like Captain Jack.
Captain
like
Jack.
Pretty solid name.
I love it. Captain Jack here with me. And hey, today we're going to have a lot of fun. We are breaking down all of the announcements that just happened at D23.
Every last one.
Oh my goodness. First and foremost, let's start with this, Jack. I want the audience to get to know you a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, your Disney background. I do this with all the guests. So just explain to us, when you were growing up, what was your Disney experience like? Were you a park goer, a movie watcher, a little bit of everything? Like, share with the audience a little bit, just your Disney background, just briefly.
Yeah, I was raised on Disney stuff. Like grew up watching these like hand-drawn animated Disney movies. Like I have a core memory of, I mean, this isn't like telling this in order or anything, but like I have a core memory of watching Sleeping Beauty, but like, and I haven't seen that movie in a lot of years. But obviously, like Maleficent does the thing where she turns into a dragon. Like, you know, is it Prince Charming? What's his name in Sleeping Beauty? Yes,
Prince Philip.
He fights Maleficent, and like I have a core memory of like we have the way to like turn it off because my brother was like 2.
Yeah,
and so like, he'd be traumatized to see the big old dragon doing her thing. But like I have a core memory of like watching that movie. Grew up watching like all the Pixar movies. Incredibles is my second favorite movie of all time.
Oh wow, yeah.
So like Incredibles was the first ever movie I saw in theaters. And so, like, grew up watching these movies. But then, like, going to the parks was something that I also grew up doing. I don't remember my first time or even my first few times there because I don't remember if they had annual passes or not, but we were at the Disney parks a good bit growing up. So those were a really big, like, formative part of my childhood. And so, like, even today, like, we went back in February. My family went on, like, a massive, like, week-long vacation, but me and my brother were there for a weekend. But even just those 2 days, like it felt like natural, you know, like it felt like a place. I mean, saying it feels like home is a bit much, but like I still love those places, you know, and like even though like they look a bit different than what I grew up with, like they still have that like homey feeling for me.
Exactly.
So, like I love being there, and like now that's kind of evolved into like a theme park as a whole, like. Historian side of me, like I love digging into like the Disney history now.
I get that.
So like, I mean, I'm sure we'll get to this, but like the D23 panel was called Horizons. There was a ride at Epcot called Horizons back in the day.
A deep cut.
So like, love learning about that stuff, and so like that's kind of evolved over the years. But like, I grew up going to these parks, and I, you know, come what may, I still love these places.
That's right,
and I'll always go to them.
Absolutely. Okay, that's awesome. And then. Kind of 2 lightning round questions. We did not discuss this beforehand.
Oh,
this
boy.
is all coming
Let's
off
go.
the cuff. They should be easy though. Favorite park?
Hollywood Studios.
Hollywood Studios.
I
That's
love
a good pick.
Say what you want to about
Yeah.
what it has become. I love it.
That's right. That's right. Hollywood Studios. Okay. Underrated attraction. A ride that you think is or show that is just severely underrated. In
Living
your
with the
mind.
Land.
Living with the Land. That's a good choice.
It's
We
goated.
love Living with
It's
the Land on
goated.
this podcast.
Like, if you get it, you get it. And
That's
if
right.
you don't, you will.
Baby, when that pan flute kicks in,
Oh my gosh.
that's when that's honestly
It's
when
the
I
best.
feel like I'm living with the land.
It's
is
the
when that pan
best.
flute kicks in.
And it doesn't take long either. And like
No.
when you round that corner and you see like the rain coming down in the forest, it's like, man, I could
That's
stay
right.
here all day. This is the best. I love it.
Oh, I love it. So that's a little bit about Jack. And now we're going to move into D23.
Let's go.
Because D23 just wrapped up last weekend.
Uh-huh.
And of course, there's a lot of talks, right, about all that was announced, good and bad. Jack is a big movie guy. So I think it'd be remiss if we didn't at least briefly talk about movies for just a second. Because there's a lot that were announced. There's a lot of sequels.
Do I even remember what? Okay,
Incredibles 3
yes,
was announced.
okay.
Frozen 3 was talked about.
Yes.
We had a lot of movies come out on the pipeline. And I was trying to see maybe if there's one that you were excited about that's coming down the pipeline from what we got told about at D23. If there's one that you're like, okay, honestly, I don't know why they're making.
Yeah.
I don't know why they're making.
I'm going to be
movie.
so honest. Most of my attention for D23 was diverted to the park stuff.
Yeah, I get that.
However, I do remember Incredibles 3, Frozen 3, Toy Story 5. If there's one I have a question about, it's Toy Story 5. Now, let me say this. I seem to be one of the 4 people on Earth who like Toy Story 4.
Okay.
I like Toy Story 4. I'm sorry to say it. Cried a couple times watching that. Not ashamed of it. I like that movie. But going into that movie, I was like, why would you make a 4th one after how the 3rd one ended? I have the same thought about the 5th one. I was proven wrong last time. So we will see what happens. But that's the one where I'm like, why are we getting this? Incredibles 3, okay. Incredibles 1 is my second favorite movie ever.
Yes.
Love that movie dearly. The second one, I made a critical error watching the second one. I watched a double feature.
Oh no.
In the theater.
Okay.
So like this is 2018. So like I was on staff with the missions organization. The head honchos were big movie guys, which worked out in my favor. And so like we took the whole staff that was still in the office to go watch this double feature. They played the first one, masterpiece. Fell back in love with it. Incredible. They play the second one right after that. It's a very different movie.
Yes,
than the
very
first
different.
one. And it took me a long time to warm up to Incredibles 2. So I wouldn't say they're one for one. I do like Incredibles 2, but it's nowhere close to Incredibles 1. So I'm, I guess, the most excited for Incredibles 3 because I think Giacchino's coming back to do that score, which is incredible. I think Brad Bird's attached somehow. I don't know if he's directing it or if he's just like nearby, but I love Incredibles.
Yeah.
I'll take any Incredibles I can get.
I get that. Okay, so I also had Toy Story 5 as the one that I'm kind of questioning.
Yeah.
Because I think the whole storyline behind it is decent. It's about toys versus screens from what I kind of got from the visual art.
Interesting.
It's a very interesting thing for them to tackle. But at the same time, I don't understand how you're going to get Woody back into the fold.
Yeah, because he's in that concept art.
Yes. And so I don't understand how you get Woody back in the fold. Honestly, if you were going to make another Toy Story, I think you should. I know this is going to sound very hypocritical and almost a little heathenistic.
Easy.
You got to move on to another set of toys.
I support that. I mean, we've had 4 movies, and then like every spinoff thing has them involved. So, like those little like
yes
shorts that would air on like ABC Family or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, like all those are about them.
You have to move on if you're going to keep making these movies because it's not going to make any sense.
Yeah.
Like, who even is this child? Is this a more grown up Bonnie?
Yeah.
Or is it some other kid? Because that's the thing I'm questioning. Now, the one I'm excited about is the new original Pixar movie, Elio.
Is this the one about the beaver?
No. That one kind of creeped me out a little bit. I'm not going to lie. I saw the eyes and I was like, I feel like it's staring into my soul right now. No, Elio is an original movie from Pixar that's going to be coming out in 2025. And it is about like a kid that is trying to find his place in the world. He accidentally goes up into space and like these aliens think that he is the Earth's ambassador. And so, like, I am very intrigued by this
I must
storyline
have not
already.
really paid attention to the movie announcements that much. Like now that you're mentioning it, I'm like remembering pieces of this.
Yes,
Interesting.
I know. So that's the one I think I'm the most intrigued by because it's the only one that's not like a sequel.
Yeah.
And like I think Frozen 3 could be fun because I think Frozen 1 and 2 are both solid.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Frozen 2 is better than Frozen 1.
I don't think I've seen Frozen 2 since it was out in theaters.
Yeah.
But I do remember liking it a lot.
Yes, I thought it was a great follow-up. And I think there's still some things we could still explore in Frozen 3 if that makes sense.
Concerning the whole sequel burnout thing, here's where I'm at on that. Inside Out 2 just became the highest grossing animated movie of all time. And if I'm not mistaken, is in the top 10 ever.
Yes.
Of like highest grossing movies. So, if you're Disney, now granted, Inside Out 2 is an incredible movie. But if you're Disney, I feel like the lesson you take from that is people want sequels.
That's right.
And like, how can you, honestly, I can't fault them for that. Because Inside Out 2 just made all the money in the world, and it's a sequel.
That's very much.
I can't fault Disney for this.
That's very much where I'm falling with just the movie business as a whole.
Yeah.
Right
These
now,
things keep making money.
What are the movies right now? Let's forget Disney. What are the movies right now that are coming out? Right, there are a lot of sequels.
Yeah.
To movies that we've like the Mad Max series, like right, that keeps recirculated. If I'm not mistaken,
as far as I know,
right?
Furiosa did not.
Furiosa is not.
As far as I know, did not. This pains me to say. As far as I know, Furiosa did not do that well, which is a crying shame.
Yeah.
Because it is one of the best movies of the year. But kind of in the same vein, Dune 2.
Yes. Yeah.
Is a sequel.
That's right.
To Dune Part 1, famously. And it made like $800 million.
That's right.
For an almost 3 hour kind of trippy sci-fi movie.
Yes.
Made a lot of money, but it's a sequel.
But that's the thing. That's the whole state that our movie watchers are in right now. Is just sequels are kind of the king. So everybody that's kind of hating on Disney for like announcing all these sequels,
you
it's
can't
like
fault them for it.
The state of just the movie business. We just had Minions like 8 this summer. So
have you seen Despicable Me 4?
Oh yeah, no, I've not.
I apologize to anybody I offend with this. It is no good. I gave it 2 stars on Letterboxd.
Oh yeah,
it is bad. It's a bad movie.
Oh man. Well, we will move on from the movie discussion because I know that that's not what people came here for. We're gonna move into the parks now.
Let's go.
I'm excited about this because it was stated first and foremost, and this was something that I actually predicted that they were going to come out and say this like right off the bat. All of these things that were announced are in active development. Now, what that really means, we have no idea. Like,
because I think he actually said the phrase like, "None of this is blue sky."
Yes.
Which tells me that they have some finger to the pulse of like online chatter. You know what I'm saying?
Well, the last couple of D23s, including the expos that are in between the big ones, have just been so bleh.
Yeah.
And just a lot of, hey, we're going to throw out these big ideas, but we have nothing to show for them.
And like,
nothing,
there's no earth moving.
And there's still so many famously scrapped projects like Cherry Tree Lane at Epcot, things like that.
Half of the Epcot overhaul.
That's right. That they knew they could not come into this conference and drop the ball. So all of these things in some form or fashion are actively being worked on right now, which genuinely, despite what we're going to talk about,
that's exciting.
It does excite me.
That's exciting.
That at least they are working on these things.
Yeah,
like,
it really is.
That is an exciting change of pace for me as a Disney Parks fan.
Yes, and especially like for these Orlando parks, like they need that because say what you want to about Universal, that park's almost done, and
That's right.
like there's those construction crews. I don't know what they're eating and drinking over there. Those boys and girls are working over there. That park, it looks like it's almost done, and if it looks as good as it looks to be, or if it is as good as it looks to be, Disney's got to move.
That's
so
right.
It sounds like they are.
And it sounds like this was the ultimate counterpunch right now, right, to Epic Universe.
Mm-hmm.
Like the who shall not be named basically around Disney, right? Epic Universe is coming. It's looming. This was the time to get the momentum on your side right now before Universal's ultimate punch that they've had for a long time comes out the gates. Now, we're going to start off kind of soft, and we'll get more and more into it as we go. So we're actually going to start with Disney Cruise Line. Have you ever done a Disney cruise?
I was trying to do the math earlier. I think I've done 3 of them.
Okay.
It was all on the same ship. It was all on the Disney Dream, I think.
Okay.
I've loved it. I love Disney cruises.
See, I've never been on one.
They're awesome.
But Mike and Myra, our former co-hosts here, loved them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, loved them to death.
They're great.
They got hooked really late. My mom's been on one. She's loved it. So it's on my bucket list. Well, I may have a great opportunity to do that now because they announced during D23, I wrote it down here because I just couldn't believe this. They are adding 4 new cruise ships between 2027 and 2031.
4 more?
4 more, which means their fleet is going to total 13 cruise ships by 2031.
Do they even have 13 ports to send those cruise ships to?
See, now I don't know.
What in the world?
But
I mean, awesome.
That's really cool because I think
awesome.
that means obviously Disney Cruise Line is still one of the best things the Disney company does.
It's incredible. Like,
by many people's standards, it is still the golden standard.
It's stellar. It truly is.
So I'm excited about this because honestly, the new ship that they've been working on, I can't remember what it's called, but it's
Destiny, right?
Destiny, yes.
Yeah.
Full of heroes and villains and things like that. They're doing such great works on these ships that are about to debut. I'm super excited to see what they're going to come up with because these apparently are all going to be 4 different ships. Like, they're not going to all be copies or clones of other ones or anything like that. They're going to be 4 unique.
Because that's kind of like what
ships.
the Dream and, forgive me if I get this wrong, the Fantasy, I think, is the one that came after that.
Yeah.
Those are pretty similar. If I'm not mistaken, those are pretty similar ships. Like, they both have that aqueduct thing.
Yeah.
Like the little ride on there. Yeah.
But it is kind of interesting that this cruise line business that Disney almost stumbled into as like, hey, we're just going to give this a try, has become one of the most successful parts of the company to where now they are going to have 13 ships on the line. Like,
and I've never done a cruise other than Disney Cruise. But I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure I want to.
Exactly.
Because I don't want to find out if it's better or worse.
Yeah, the standard is just so high. So I don't blame you there. But I just wanted to throw that out there because I did think that was a crazy thing they announced during the Parks and Experiences panel, was just that 13 cruise line ships. Like, that just tells you how far that's going. But let's move on to foreign parks because
it's on my bucket list to visit every single one of these. I've checked off 1. I got a lot more to get to.
Which one have you gone to?
Hong Kong.
Hong Kong.
Both of my sisters are adopted, for the listeners at home. And Mary, who's about to be 13, we went to China to adopt her in, summer of 2013. And she's from Shanghai, so we went to Shanghai. Went to Guangzhou, which is like the American embassy. So anybody who's adopting has to go through Guangzhou, is like, do paperwork, all that kind of stuff. But then we left from Hong Kong, which famously is the home of Hong Kong Disney. And so when we were in Hong Kong, we just went there for a day. I don't remember much. I remember Mystic Manor, which is like one of the big like original rides there.
It's their version of Haunted Mansion.
I remember that. I remember a Toy Story thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's about all I remember.
Okay.
But I remember Mystic Manor.
But you might have to go back because, see, Hong Kong Disneyland is getting a Spider-Man attraction. This was announced at D23.
This made me so sad.
And it's almost like a Tower of Terror.
That's incredible.
Styled Spider-Man attraction.
What a great concept. It's awesome.
And I think Doc Ock's going to be involved.
Let's go.
Because
he's in that concept
art. I think
yeah.
RDJ is reprising his role as Iron Man.
What?
For it. Like,
is Tom Holland coming back for Spidey for this?
See, I don't know. They didn't dive in too deep to these concepts, but I think that's really interesting, and I think that's a lot of fun, especially considering Shanghai is also getting a Spider-Man attraction, and it is a Spider-Man themed roller coaster.
Let's go.
And honestly, to me, I'm more excited about the Shanghai roller coaster than I am the Tower of Terror. I think it's a perfect concept, but I don't know. From the concept art I watched, I was like, oh, I kind of like that. I like the coaster.
What did the coaster look like? Any other coaster, like a similar ride system?
I could not tell from the artwork we were shown.
Mm-hmm.
So I went back and watched the panel, because somebody streamed it and put it on YouTube. From the concept art that was shown, I couldn't tell really. It's just Spidey swinging through as they're going through something, and it was like, okay, that's really neat.
Spidey's my boy.
I kind of want to do that one. But the Tower of Terror one sounds really awesome too, and I kind of am really interested in both. So I may have to go across the pond at some point.
I'm making it
both of those.
I'm making it my goal, not my ultimate goal, but one of my goals in life, to go to all the Disney parks.
Yes.
I want to do it.
I was so mad when we had a layover in Paris on a mission trip because
Can I just leave and go to?
I was so close and yet could not leave the airport. So I was like,
Oh.
dang it, we were so close. Because Paris is getting a new park, kind of. It's a refurb of Walt Disney Studios, which has famously kind of been one of the worst parks, right? It's getting rethemed, rebranded as Disney Adventure.
That was my question. Okay, yes,
It's
that's
getting,
the one that got that.
That is the one that is getting rethemed. And they maybe got one of the most exciting announcements of D23, like in terms of just actual delight from people, which is the Lion King land.
How has the Lion King never had a ride? I mean, obviously
Yes.
they have the show like in when did it come out? 95.
It's 30 years old
in
this
all
year.
in all of that movie's history. How has it never had a ride?
Exactly. At least not a proper like rendition.
Yeah.
Like of anything. We had that puppet show that was in Magic Kingdom like back a long time ago, way before PhilharMagic. There was a Lion King puppet show in there.
Yes.
But in terms of like a ride or any dedicated like big time attraction, you're right. No, we have not.
That's wild.
But see, in Lion King land over at Disney Adventure, we are going to get a Lion King ride. It looks like basically Splash Mountain,
but if it was Pride Rock
themed as Pride Rock, which honestly I'm here for. I'm here for. And Jack, I don't know how you feel about it, but like it makes me feel better too that they've come out and said too, because the artwork made it look like 2019's live action one, but they have come out and said that it will be based off the 94 animated film.
That was something that confused me, which is something I guess I'll bring up later too. The concept art that they were dropping for this, for all these things, I wonder when these were made. It's not that I'm questioning the projects. It's like I just wonder when the concept art was made, because like the concept art for this has the character models for 2019, but they said, and in an article that came out later, that it's based on the animated version. So like, was that a call that got made after the concept art got made?
Yeah.
Or like, I'm just wondering when the concept art was like drawn up. You know what I'm saying?
We have multiple theories going around of like when some of these ideas were actually brought up.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, obviously just now and now. And again, we're going to talk about one that apparently has been on the table for a long time. That finally came back around. But yeah, you're right. I wonder if they were just waiting for a park like this to be rebranded or rethemed or something before they threw it out, and they've just had this on the back burner for a long time because it's very detailed. They had full models at D23, like everything.
Oh, they did, yeah, like the ride.
So.
Which, you know, I'm glad it's based on which I have my opinions on the 2019 movie. I'm not here to bash that movie, but like, I would say if you're gonna do a Lion King ride, do the one that stood the test of time, being the animated version. Like, I would assume those are the more recognizable versions of those characters, because like when you have the Lion King 2019, it's just a lion. Like there's nothing that like differentiates them. But like you've got Mufasa's like red mane in the animated version. You've got Simba's big old bug eyes. Like they all have massive eyes because they're animated characters.
That's right.
It's like they all look very distinct. So like I'm glad that it's being based off of that, because those are actually like distinct, recognizable, iconic, I would say, character models.
Me too. Yeah, absolutely. That thrills me that it's based off the animated version.
Yeah.
Because that is truly the one that, like you said, I think everybody around the world will recognize way more than the 2019 film. So I'm glad about that. Now, I am sad for Disneyland Paris, like the actual Disneyland Paris part, because it was like they...
So help me out. So there's Disneyland Paris, and then the park with the Lion King is the other park?
Yes, it's their other park, Disney Adventure, that's getting Lion King.
Got it. So it's like a Disneyland and California Adventure situation.
Pretty much, yes. Okay. And so Disneyland Paris, the mothership park, they basically got nothing, which kind of sucks.
God bless.
Because they got a new nighttime show, but we already knew about that going into D23. We just didn't know all the details about it. And so they followed up on that, and it looks like it's going to be a neat nighttime show. But somebody on a video that I was watching since D23 has stated, you know, it's kind of crazy. Disneyland Paris has never seen a significant upgrade. Like in terms of new attractions, in terms of other things. Yeah, I mean, it's been around since the 90s.
Wow.
It was an Eisner project. So
it was
an Eisner era project, and yet it has not seen any major new developments since its inception, basically, which is kind of crazy.
I'm definitely revoking my Disney historian fan card here, but like, is this the one that was like Euro Disneyland that bombed when it opened?
Yes.
It just got okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yes.
This is making
And
more
it
sense.
has just not received any major touch-ups. And everybody for years has been wondering, okay, when's the D23 when Paris is actually going to get its facelift,
What
get
it's due, yeah.
kind of new stuff? And it's like another one just passed again where nothing happened. It is like,
Maybe
okay,
next year your destination D23.
Yeah.
Sorry, Paris.
The Expo, maybe you'll get one, but at least Disney Adventure got one. I am glad about that because that's a park that a lot of people, when they rebranded it, they're like, how generic can we get?
What a rough
this
name.
park? Yeah,
Disney Adventure World. Like, what are we? Six Flags?
Exactly. And
Which
so
I'll come back to that later too. But like,
no,
that's
you're
funny.
right. So like, I'm glad they get something cool
yeah.
to look forward to. And I think Disneyland Paris is also the one getting Frozen, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yes.
Disneyland Adventure Park
Yes.
is also getting the Frozen World.
Is that just like the same thing that Hong Kong got, like the World of Frozen?
I think so. It's
Just like
Arendelle.
just a copy.
Yeah.
Okay. Which I mean
So-
looks great. I'm not
Oh,
against,
yeah.
not against a copy there. It looks
So
great.
I'm pumped. So I'm really pumped about that. Okay, but now we're going to cross the pond.
Let's do
we're
it.
coming to the stateside
My
parks.
home parks.
We're starting with Disneyland California.
Let's do it.
We're going to work. Our
I have
way
never
up.
been to Disneyland or California Adventure, but I'm going in
Okay.
January, and I am
Oh, nice.
stoked. And I told my family, I was like, listen, I don't care if it's the crappiest dark ride known to man. I know Mr. Toad's Wild Ride has some like cardboard cutouts or whatever. I don't care. We're doing everything.
You have to do the
We're doing
historical stuff.
every single. I don't care how old it is. I don't care if it is like running on fumes and it smells like gasoline in there because it runs on whatever. We're doing it all.
That's
I'm
right.
Thrilled.
I
I'm so
was
stoked.
I was blessed enough to. I've been able to go a couple times through mostly when I was in late high school, early college. But man, the Matterhorn will break your back in half.
That's what I've heard.
But you've got.
But
to
it's got
ride it.
Yeti animatronics.
That's right, and it's the first steel tube roller coaster.
Right.
You know? Like you got to ride it
For the history.
So I think you, as a Disney history fan, are gonna love it. But
I am also. I'm particularly thrilled for the Radiator Springs when the sun gets low and they do the little like turn on the lights and do the song.
yes,
Oh my gosh.
but Disneyland in California got some hype announcements. Now,
Dude.
one thing I was disappointed in, and this was something I predicted was going to get talked about. It seemed almost obvious, and I was wrong. I'll admit I was wrong. Was I thought they were going to go into full detail about what the 70th anniversary was going to be, because next year Disneyland turns 70 years old. And John Stamos came out on the piano, and I said, "Oh, you got to be kidding me!" And he was like, "Guess what? Next year Disneyland turns 70." I said, "Oh, you got to be kidding me! John Stamos is about to lay down the law out here
Let's go.
about the 70th anniversary." And then guess what? Basically, he said, "Yeah, Disneyland turns 70 next year, and we're gonna have more details to come."
No way.
And then he left, and I was like, "You've got to be kidding
But they
me."
dropped a logo though.
They dropped the logo, which is fun, and you know, God bless them. Like, I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to try to get back out there at some point next year. I think that's on my list of things to do for 2025 is to go back to Disneyland at some point for this 70th anniversary nonsense. But I was a little disappointed by that.
Nonsense.
Like, I was a little disappointed that they, like, 70 is a big anniversary.
It is.
And they went so hard for the 50th at Disney World. Well, for Magic Kingdom.
Yeah.
And then they went hard for
Facts.
like the 65th anniversary at Disneyland. So I was like, surely they're going to drop all the 70th.
A number with a 0 at the end? Come on, guys.
But nothing. And I was like, okay, I'm a little disappointed in this. I'm not going to lie. Like, I was hoping.
Maybe, and this is just me trying to,
Like, I
see
want a
the-
birthday cake Sleeping Beauty castle.
Oh my gosh. But like, I mean, how long was that panel?
Oh, it was almost 3 hours.
Like,
I think.
was it just because of like the sheer number of everything else that they were announcing there? Like,
I guess so. I can kind of see why maybe that would be seen as being more boring.
yeah.
But also, what better opportunity? You got the audience that you want in there. These are Disney fans.
You've got
that
your
care
park
about the
heads.
Disney parks.
Yeah.
Like, what other better time are you going to have to drop
To get their attention.
those
yeah.
details and get people hyped for it? Especially because it's in Anaheim. The convention's in Anaheim, right across the street from Disneyland. Like,
You could throw a rock and hit it.
I know, like, it's 13 minutes away from the park. Like, I just didn't get it. But you know what?
They did announce Tiana's Bayou Adventure opening date for Disneyland.
They did,
They
yes.
did, which is in the middle of winter for some reason for a log flume ride. What's that about?
That surprised me that we got a hard date for that. Because I wrote it down. It's November the 15th is when the opening date was announced. I was expecting, much like Disney World's, like fall
Mhm.
2025. That way they had some leeway. But I wonder, because I haven't been on Tiana's Bayou Adventure in Florida yet, and I haven't really watched anything, but it's had a lot of problems.
I have watched POVs just because I was so curious.
It's had
And I also
yeah.
don't super care about. Okay, I don't. I don't get super pressed about theme park ride spoilers, because me seeing it on a screen is a lot different than me actually doing it.
I get
So I
that.
have watched the Tiana's ride throughs,
Mhm.
but my thoughts on it, I really can't form an opinion on what I think until I actually go do it.
Yes.
Because that's not. It's like, I mean, you can watch the Soarin' ride film,
Yeah,
but you don't
yeah.
get the orange scent. You don't get the being lifted
Yes.
off the ground thing.
You're right.
And so, like, there's plenty of sensory things that you don't get. But I have seen what you've seen. There's been a lot of downtime for
Yes.
Tiana's.
A lot of downtimes, a lot of problems. And so I was kind of wondering what they would do, if they would play with that date of like, hey, we're going to say fall of whatever. And then if it's actually ready by summer of 2025,
Then
move
great.
it up or give us a
Yeah.
hard date because they know, hey, we need to make sure this is exactly right because of all the problems they've been having in Florida. And so I think that's why they gave us a hard date of, hey, November 15th. There's no playing around. This is when it's not going to jump up to June suddenly like the Disney World version did.
Mhm.
So I think that's why.
What
I think
I've
that's why they gave us a hard date.
what I've heard about Disney World's version and possibly the reason for the downtime. Obviously, the refurb was to like change the theming and to like change out from Song of the South to Princess and the Frog, like all of that kind of stuff. But from what I understand, the ride system did not get the refurb, like how the ride operates,
Yeah.
did not get the refurb that the theming did.
Mm.
Like the ride system just went untouched while the entire retheme's going on. So then when you bring the ride back online and it starts like getting a bunch of guests in there, it's like, oh wait a minute, we haven't run this ride in a year.
Yeah.
Like it's having problems. Wonder why? Because they hadn't been running for a year. And then like even Splash had issues in the lead up to its closure.
Yes.
And so like if Splash never got its refurb and then the ride system with a year of downtime never got refurb, it's probably in the worst state it's ever been in. And that's saying nothing about the ride Tiana's Bayou Adventure. That's just saying like the mechanics just are not working.
Yes, you're right. And Florida is brutal. Like, let's be honest. It's hot. It's humid, right?
If you've never been to the Florida parks, it's hot, it's humid.
And so I
lot.
can only imagine the conditions in that ride, especially too,
and
with
it's
all the water.
The water ride. Oh my gosh!
Like all these brand new animatronics
with the A1000s. Oh man, there's no way. Like you can test them in your Imagineering facility or whatever, but that is not the same as a show building in the middle of Central Florida.
So I do think Disneyland's, just because of the weather difference, will probably go over a little bit smoother upon launch. But I definitely think they picked a solid date because they knew we got to get all of this worked out before we release it to the public. Now, the bigger problem I have with the whole Tiana's opening thing is the renaming of Critter Country. So they are renaming Critter Country to Bayou Country. And the only reason why I have a problem with this is because Disneyland has one of the best themed areas, I think, of any Disney park, which is New Orleans Square.
Mm-hmm.
So why would you have New Orleans Square and Bayou Country?
Wait a minute. Isn't Pooh back in Critter Country too?
Yes. See, you've got multiple things back there. So you got Winnie the Pooh that was back there. Country Bears was back there. Like all of these different things.
They're not in the Bayou. What in the world?
I don't understand why you just don't keep it as Critter Country when you
like
have the whole New Orleans Square already.
Because like Tiana's Bayou Adventure does have critters in it.
One of the shops got renamed to Critter Co-op.
I mean, come on, what are we doing?
I mean, where better place to go to the Critter Co-op
than Critter Country? Come on now.
So that was the one thing about that announcement. I was like, okay, that's a little cringe. A little weird. I don't really like that, but also I'm just a big Disney fan, and I kind of liked that area being named that because, like you said, of the variety of attractions that was found there. Now they did say they might try to rework something where Pooh's technically in this other land at Disneyland or whatever, but I don't know.
What, Galaxy's Edge, which is right next to that?
Oh bother.
Who is a Star Wars
Oh
character now,
bother.
folks?
We've been found. Oh boy,
The
but
First
we'll move
Order has
on.
found us.
Tiana's is fun, and I'm glad that was a solid attraction that we knew was coming. Along with, we knew that they would say something about the 70s. But I was kind of on the border of whether they were going to talk about this or not, Avatar.
Now, hadn't this been in the rumor mill for a hot minute?
So there was concept art last fall, I believe, that was thrown out. And this was a part of the big Disneyland Forward expansion talk.
Oh, right. Yes.
So this was something that they pitched to the Anaheim city council, like, hey, if we expand the park, Avatar is something we are interested to bring over. But I was absolutely floored
to convince the Anaheim city, like, hey, you should do this because you're going to get this.
Yes, because yes, pretty much they're like, this is our plans to try to bring in more people, and it's like, okay, well, we're bringing Avatar. Like, if Avatar is successful in Florida, which it has been, why not bring it to California?
Pandora's incredible.
But here's the thing: it's not a clone. It's not a clone land. It is going to be based off of not just Way of Water, but the next several films too. Because again, James Cameron's already had this all planned out.
I used to be an Avatar hater, and then I saw the second one, and then I had to reconsider my entire thought process about Avatar. Like, watched the first one leading up to the second one, and I was like, that was better than I remembered. Then I watched the second one, and I was like, wait a minute, James Cameron might be onto something here.
That's right.
Then I watched the first one again not long after that, and I said, you know what? Give me 10 more of these.
But even just from the concept art, I'm like, oh, this is going to be fun.
Yeah.
Like, this is going to be fun. I don't know what attractions they're going to throw in there, if they're going to throw in a flight of passage type attraction or not. But if this works well and they pull it off anywhere remotely close to the concept art.
A lot of the concept art for the lands they dropped, stellar.
Yes.
Like this, incredible concept art. There's no way it ends up looking like this.
Oh, yeah. No,
but for what we have to go on now, it looks awesome.
But, I also go back and wonder sometimes, though, how many people looked at the original Pandora going into Animal Kingdom and thought, oh, there's no way they're going to get the floating mountains or whatever.
You're not wrong. I still...
And, now
I've seen construction photos, and I still don't understand.
Exactly, yeah.
I don't understand what that is. Or how
so I think they can pull off something just as cool, even if it doesn't look exactly like the artwork. And that's the same with all of these lands that we're going to talk about, is they may not end up looking exactly like they do in the photos because they want to make it look pretty and make everybody excited.
Sure.
But I think they can pull off something close because they've shown us they can do it before.
Yeah.
So I think Avatar in DCA honestly is going to be a huge win.
And honestly, from what I understand about those two parks, that kind of balances those two parks out.
Yes.
Because with Disneyland, you've got Galaxy's Edge, your big IP, whatever, your big movie land, whatever. California Adventure will now have its equivalent with Avatar.
Well, in Disneyland last year got the brand new Toontown, right?
Yes.
They got their brand new rolled out Toontown with their Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. It makes sense.
I'm excited to see that version of that ride.
Yes. It makes sense that they would want California Adventure friends to have something kind of big to look forward to. Now, that wasn't where it stopped for Disneyland California Adventure, because we are also getting a new Coco themed boat ride for California Adventure.
What's your take on Coco the movie?
I love Coco the movie.
Coco rocks.
I think Coco the movie is brilliant, and I'm honestly really pumped about this being a boat ride.
A boat ride fits the vibe very well.
I think you're going to be able to do some really cool stuff with a Coco themed boat ride.
Yeah.
Just from the sets that they can build, the way they can use technology and screens in a positive way to re-enhance all the different elements that Coco brings to the table.
And I'm wondering, I think 2 out of the 3 rides in the new Fantasy Springs area and Disney Sea are boat rides.
Yes.
I've watched POVs. They're incredible.
Yes.
And so, I'm wondering if the Coco boat ride, given that, it's a boat ride system, very similar to those other 2, I wonder if, they'll be able to do something similar to how, creative those rides are.
You're right. Yes. No, those are very state-of-the-art, too. The Peter Pan one.
Oh, God.
Incredible.
If you have not looked up ride footage, and you don't care about spoilers, of what are these rides called? Like Rapunzel's Lantern Adventure or something.
Yeah.
And then not Frozen Ever After, but like what something Frozen, something boat ride, whatever. Incredible.
Yes.
Just awesome.
Stunning. And even before Tokyo Disney Sea released Fantasy Springs, the Pirates of the Caribbean
I've heard about
boat
this.
ride
I've not seen footage of this, but I've heard
is
it's
incredible.
Great.
Like, so I think they have, you're right. I think boat ride technology has also come so far
Stepped up big
since
time.
they put a boat ride into like our parks here in the States that I think it could easily be elevated to something even beyond what we're thinking about. Because the last boat ride was probably what, Navi River Journey in California?
Was that the last one?
Or not in California.
Which I'll be honest with you,
Florida.
has its merits. People,
Yes.
I think people dog Navi River Journey when you can get on it, because sometimes that wait is stupid long for a boat ride. It's a great little vibe. Plus
It
that,
is a vibe,
Plus that
yeah.
animatronic is awesome.
Oh, the Shaman animatronic
Stellar.
is a top 5 animatronic.
Stellar.
If
And
not
it's
top 3.
and it's usually working. Like
Yes.
I'm not sure if I've ever. I mean, obviously it's gone down because it's a piece of machinery and it'll break occasionally. But like when it works, oh man,
I don't think I've ever seen it in B mode.
I've never seen it in B mode.
So I think we're blessed by that, obviously. But yeah, but that being the last boat ride they've technically put, I think, in the state parks, I think we're in for a treat.
Long
with
overdue.
the Coco thing. So I'm glad we're in agreement. Coco, I think, is a big win, especially for California Adventure.
I'm glad Coco is getting a ride because that.
Yes.
I remember when I watched that movie, I had just taken my music theory final freshman year of college, and I used every brain cell in my head.
Yes.
I was exhausted, and I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go watch Coco because it had just come out.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go watch Coco. I was boo-hooing
Yes.
by the end of that movie.
So emotional, but it's
done.
so good. Oh my gosh. It's definitely in the Pixar golden era.
It's good.
But okay, something else that's going to make you boo-hoo, potentially, and get you emotional when you go to Disneyland is the new Walt Disney show.
I'm very curious about this.
Rotating with the Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, and it's going to feature the first ever Walt Disney animatronic. Now,
I'm curious your takes on this.
there's a lot of debates on this. I think this is needed for Disneyland, especially because that was Walt's park. Out of all these parks across the world, this is the park that he went to, he walked through. His whole life, right, was with this park, basically, right? Towards the end, he didn't get to go to Disney World, didn't get to see that completed. I also think with so many things changing in the parks and quote unquote Walt's vision, right, being seemingly taken out of a lot of the Disney parks, the more Walt we can put into them, I think is okay. I think it needs to be done respectfully. I think it needs to be done tastefully. But from what I've seen and from what I've heard, they said this is going to be the most human-like animatronic they've ever created.
That's what I've heard too.
And apparently it's going to be able to do things that they've never been able to make an animatronic do before. He can be able to turn and look back at his desk. He's going to be able to like turn and talk and do different things. Like, I think it's going to be an incredible show. Now, there are conflicting reports about the Disney family's takes on it.
This is where I like draw concern. Yeah.
Because they pointed out in the panel that his great nephew or something like that, Roy P. Disney, is working on it with Imagineers. But then there's also now people saying that there's other family members that are not on board with it. But here's the thing. This is his park, right? Especially Disneyland. If you're going to put him in all of them, I could understand maybe that being a bigger issue. This is his park. The light's still on in his apartment to show that his spirit is there all the time. Put him in the park. I think it's the best and most respectful thing we can do at this point. You know, with all the changes that are happening, especially, I think that it's important for him to be in the park. So,
I also think it's very symbolic for him to be in the same theater as Lincoln. You're not replacing Lincoln with him, but they're like running double duty now. There's something symbolic about him being in the same theater with that animatronic that he like pioneered.
That's right.
Which like that, correct me if I'm wrong, Lincoln was at the World's Fair, right?
Yes.
Small World
Fair.
He was
at the 64 World Fair.
Yes. So like there's something symbolic about Walt being with that show that he oversaw for the World's Fair. The thing now, obviously, like I'm gonna choose to believe them when they say like this animatronic is like S tier. This is the greatest thing you've ever seen. Like I'm gonna believe them in that. I think it's gonna be a great animatronic. The idea, though, it's like the concept of making an animatronic out of your founder. I don't know. It feels weird to me. I can't explain that. I don't know what. There's something about it, I'm just like, it's kind of weird. Like the phrase "uncanny valley" comes to mind. That's not really what's going on here, but like, I don't know. There's something just like strange. Mm-hmm. Now,
yeah,
it's okay if they get his mannerisms down, if they like embody who he was as a guy, minus like all the smoking, God rest his soul, like if you get all the parts of him nailed down, I'm sure it's going to be a great thing. The thing about the family does worry me though. It's like if they're like going behind the family's back and like using Walt as like a, hey, look at this new thing we made, rather than like genuinely trying to honor him. You know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of, we'll never know all that.
Yes.
But like I really hope that like you said, it's his great nephew who was with, like, if like the great nephew was involved in this, and like I hope the family at the end of the day is on board with some manner of this, you know, and like they haven't like gone behind their back just to like, one, say they can do it, but then also just like, hey, look at Walt, it's this new Walt thing we're doing. Like I hope that the family's honored by this and that he's honored by this.
I think if you're questioning it at all, go back to you don't have to watch the whole thing, but find the section of the Parks panel where they talked about this, because I was in tears because they had Meghan Trainor come out and sing "Feed the Birds, Tuppence a Bag" from Mary Poppins, which was his favorite song. He would ask the Sherman Brothers to play it for him. All he had to say was play it, and they knew. And apparently there was not a dry eye in the house when they had Meghan Trainor come out and sing. The emotions were at an all-time. Of course, also with, with the Sherman Brothers now both passed away with, was it Robert or Richard that passed away this year? I think it was Richard Sherman that passed away this year. Obviously, emotions for that song are going to be high anyways. But I think from the way they talked about it, it's not, because all that animatronic stuff didn't come out until after D23.
Yeah.
During the presentation part, they were like, we're going to make a brand new Walt animatronic. He's going to be, like you said, he's going to be with Mr. Lincoln, who he idolized, and we think it's important for people to know who he is, because that's the thing. I think a lot of these kids now, they go to these parks and they don't think about Walt Disney like we do, right? These kids are going in there going, we don't know who Walt Disney is. We
Where's
know
Avatar?
All of his stuff.
Or Star Wars.
So I think that's why it's so important to have him in the park in some form or fashion.
That's
so
a good
I'm
point.
Fully on board with this, because this is not just a ploy, I think, to show off or whatever. It's to pay respect and to pay homage to him, if that makes any sense.
If that ends up being what it is, then it'll be thrilling, and it'll be just like a really. And I just like him being in the same theater as Lincoln is just really cool to me. I'm not even sure like why that's so cool to me, but like, and like it's in his office, right? So yes, like there's the concept of like Disneyland Park behind him. Like,
yes, that's right.
Just so cool. Like, did they say like what the show is gonna be? Like just him like having a conversation, or like,
I can't remember off the top of my head. I really don't remember. I wish I could.
It didn't even.
But
we
are going to be in his office, basically having a chat with him. Basically, the whole storyline is like, it's like you walk in on him and he's like, "Oh, hey, you're here. Awesome. Cool. We're going to have a little chat here."
Which, if you've seen any footage of Walt Disney ever, like just how he presents himself in those videos, like it's just the most like kind person ever.
Yes.
And so like if that's the vibe here, it doesn't matter what the show is. Like if you capture that, oh man.
So that is something I'm looking forward to, and I'm going to always be like, when I'm at Disneyland from now on, because they are going to rotate the shows seasonally. It's not even like times a day. It's like seasonally. Sometimes it'll be Walt's show. Sometimes it'll be Mr. Lincoln. I'm going to be hoping and praying that anytime I go that it's Walt. Because knowing my luck, it's always going to be Mr. Lincoln.
It's like, I've seen this before.
I've already seen it. But I am excited about that. That was an announcement I thought was very sweet. very tender at D23. And considering what was all kind of coming afterwards from that, I think we needed that moment in the presentation. But to round out Disneyland in California, we've got Avengers Campus news.
Finally.
Because the e-ticket is finally on its way on the up and up, and a surprise announcement too. So we'll start with Avengers Infinity Defense.
Yes.
That is the brand new e-ticket ride
Coming
to Avengers Campus.
Foreshadowed, if you will, long talked about.
Yes.
When was it first announced? Like
a
10
long
years
time
ago, 70 years ago?
Yeah, a long time ago. We were young children when this was announced. I'm just kidding. But it was a long time ago. You're right. This was an announcement that we've been waiting for a very, very long time. And it honestly, it looks really cool. Apparently, like we were talking about earlier, they are taking a lot of ideas from technology they have now put into place at parks across the world. They're putting in technology from the Peter Pan's boat ride into this attraction because the ride vehicle itself is a bigger ride vehicle. It's like we're incorporating technologies from Wakanda and other places to go through the timeline to try to stop King Thanos' variant or whatever.
Very cool concept. I mean,
yes.
Say what you want to about the multiverse in the movies. In a ride, that could be sick.
I was about to say, I think this might be the best play of the multiverse since it was introduced to us.
And the King Thanos art, like with the crown and the beard, oh my.
Yes.
Stellar. Awesome.
So I think this is going to be something that is really cool. Mm-hmm. I think just considering how long they've been working on it, how far ride technology has even come since they announced it, I think this has the potential to be something really good. And obviously, Avengers Campus just needs this. Disneyland California Adventure needs this.
Isn't the Avengers Campus area pretty like bare? Like it's got the Guardians Mission Breakout, and it's got Web Slingers, which I've heard is not
hit or miss. Yeah.
And so like, is that all there is over there?
Pretty much, yeah.
See that? Yeah, you need.
So we've been waiting for this for a long time. So that wasn't really surprising though that was announced and that was talked about. What got me was the second attraction, which was the Stark's flight test.
Not just one. Didn't they have a funny little video of like Bob Iger? Excuse me, I was getting all using his God-given name.
With Bobby Downey.
I was thinking Robert Downey Jr. Excuse me, Bob Iger and Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah,
who is now famously Dr. Doom for some reason.
Yes.
Like testing this thing out.
Yes,
that's awesome.
And it's basically if you are a old school Disney person and you remember old Epcot, the sum of all thrills.
Oh,
it is basically that reimagined. It's that reimagined into a ride where you are at the Stark facility testing out this new technology and you're going on different adventures with different Avengers throughout the ride while you're testing this technology. Now the cool thing is they did say in the presentation, like, hey, you will be able to go on this ride multiple times and get new Avengers every time.
Oh, that's fun.
Like, you're not just going to be on the same adventure. Which then I would raise them and say, you also said the same thing about Cosmic Rewind. And yet I got Blondie for 5 straight rides in a row. How does that work?
What are you talking about?
Know. But knowing my luck, I'd be with the Hulk every time.
My first and only ride on Cosmic Rewind, I got September. And the second that backwards launch and it went, I was like, this is an all-timer.
That's right.
Like, it took me a nanosecond to be like, this is the greatest ride ever.
Now look, we've talked about this multiple times on this podcast. Gosh. Blondie, we love you and we respect you dearly. But the first 5 times I went on that ride, that's the song I got. So I didn't even believe there was another song for a long time. But I've gotten now September.
I'm hearing reports of Everyone Wants to Rule the World is on this ride. What?
I've never heard it. I have gotten that one. So, but Tonga was then my next favorite one. Gloria, if you ever want to come on, we would gladly accept you too.
Come on.
But that kind of rounds out the Disney California parks announcements for the evening.
I'll say one more thing about the Avengers e-ticket. Like, I don't know how taboo Universal is on this podcast, but it looks very similar to the Spider-Man and Transformers rides, which is also the Peter Pan ride vehicle. It looks like from Fantasy Springs, and like Spider-Man was made in '99. Transformers was like 2012-ish. This is what, 15 years later?
Yeah.
By the time this gets built, can you imagine?
I know.
And like the fun thing about Spider-Man, especially Transformers does it, but not as good. The fun thing about Spider-Man and the Universal is like you've got the screens, yes, but like some very vibrant and like a lot of kinetic energy moving, like physical sets
Yes.
that you move through. Can you imagine what that's going to be like in an
Oh, I
Avengers
know.
e-ticket, dude? Oh,
It's going to be
man.
awesome. I'm
Oh,
honestly
man.
looking forward to it. That's why I kind of want to wait until this. Well, it won't be in place for several years,
It's
but
gonna be a minute.
I'm kind of like hoping to see it all together at some point in the next couple of years. I think that'd be really neat to go out when it's finally finished, you know, because like you said, it has felt incomplete with all of these just open ended. When is this e-ticket ever going to come? When is
Well, and it's been through
this
a
going to
couple of
fill
different.
out?
It's been through a couple of different versions, hasn't it? Like it was like a
Yes.
Quinjet ride at one point, right?
Yeah, yeah. So it's been through a lot, but I'm glad we finally got some confirmation. So